You damn player haters never wanna see me blow. Flamboyant entertainment, CEO. Yo, the spotlight is mine, it ain't his no more. When Lee come home, niggas can't.
What's going on, everybody? What you watching? I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna be watching today. We're gonna dive into a matter that has been on the escalation ever since its supposed emancipation, and that is slavery. And right now, we're talking about today's fear of Haitians. I'm hearing a lot and seeing a lot of pictures from people who have snapshots or whatever about the Haitians coming over the border. You know, where Mexicans been doing it for years. Canadians do it. But with the Haitians doing it, it's always a big deal. They turning around boats, and turning around this, and turning back that. And you'll be killed this, and you'll go through that, and you'll be prosecuted or whatever the hell the next threat is. So, over the few years, I've been telling people that the Emancipation Proclamation, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't even mean to rhyme that, is a lie. And it's a lie because it leads you to believe that Abraham Lincoln, or what was his name? Africanus, because he was half black, was the reason that the slaves were freed. And that's not entirely true. But when you tell people this, and you tell them where to go look for the source at, they ain't gonna go do their own research because people lazy as hell. So I decided I'm gonna do it myself. I'm gonna bring it to you. So we're gonna dive into this video here, which has a lot of anything that I could say about it within it. It's gonna talk about some of the people that were major players in that time period, which wasn't that long ago, since the youngins want to now label it 1900s. Y'all need to wake up. You need to realize that it wasn't that long ago. You need to realize that it's still going on. Everybody walking around here wondering why the government is so against the Haitians. I'll tell you why they fear the Haitians. We're going to see it in this video. This video is the Gullah Wars. And this is why we are in the status that we are in today. And by that, I mean the white fear. The fear of it being different than what it is. It as in the United States. This place is tripping. And the only reason I say white fear is because that's who's in charge. That's who's been in charge. I got nothing against white folks. Because all of y'all ain't guilty. Yeah. In my opinion, there's good people in all colors and there's bad people in all colors. So let's just get that straight. I'm not here trying to be racist, but I'm trying to deal with racism. It's a tricky line, but hey, let's dance. And before it even gets posted on freaking YouTube, mature audiences. This is rated M. For motherfucker, you about to see some shit. Let's go.
The following program is rated TV MALV. It contains strong language and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Blacks were happy, obedient slaves who sang spirituals and waited for the good Lord Jesus to come and set them free. They hardly ever rebelled against their horrific conditions because
let me just cut in, throw a little fact at you. The good Lord Jesus was one of the names of the slave ships. One of the first slave ships was named the good Lord Jesus. And that's where, what was that? Amazing Grace, if I'm not mistaken, came from. The slave ships. It's a slave song. Amazing Grace. Yeah, that one. If I'm not mistaken, that's, yeah.
They knew that if
Let's
they
go.
did, they would end up with nooses strung around their necks and their bloody decapitated heads mounted on poles along the major thoroughfares to set an example for any enslaved Africans who even contemplated doing the same. Wait a minute, that's not historically accurate. There's more to the history of so-called African Americans than our enslavement that's pathetically portrayed in movies such as Roots and 12 Years Enslaved.
Oh my God, the portrayal of how we so bow down and take a knee and turn the other cheek. That gets on my last freaking piece of tolerant nerve. You want to set me off real quick? That's one way to do it.
For example, the Gullah people living along the Sea Islands in South Carolina and Georgia fled their enslavers and established numerous independent settlements throughout Florida. And I'm not talking about that dilapidated Spanish-controlled town called Gracia Real de Santa Teresa de Mose that revisionist historians and white supremacists falsely prop up as the place where blacks fled to and lived happy and free. Were it not for the unprovoked, ungodly, and relentless pursuits of one of their greatest nemesis, Andrew Jackson, and Presidents Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and James Monroe, the Gullah people would have reestablished Florida as an independent black nation similar to Haiti.
Did you catch that? Let that sink in. Let's revisit that. And for those in the back, we're gonna rewind that for the people up top, like Chuck D would say.
Ungodly and relentless.
Take a look. These are the people that used to bow down. That shit ain't real. That's what they want you to do because being obedient. That's what I'm, you know what? Let's go. I ain't even gonna get started.
Pursuits of one of their greatest nemesis, Andrew Jackson, and Presidents Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and James Monroe, the Gullah people would have reestablished Florida as an independent black nation similar to Haiti.
Similar to who? And you wonder why they ain't letting the Haitians in. You wonder why they fear the Haitians. Let that sink in. Let that sink in.
How many slave rebellions have you heard about? I'm sure you've heard about Nat Turner. I've made videos about Denmark Vesey and John Brown. But something that's not mentioned enough is the fact that we've had hundreds of rebellions. Hundreds. And one rebellion that never gets talked about.
Look at the years. That's not that long ago. 1861, 1865. Gullah Wars, 1739, 1858. What actually ended slavery? What actually ended slavery? The U.S. Civil War came in lieu of the Gullah Wars. If you're paying attention, you see how they overlap. Gullah War started in 1739. You following me here? Was considered over in 1858. Then the U.S. Civil War. Was it 2-3 years later? Yeah. It's not that big of a gap, yo. Not that much of a difference at all. Guess what started it? Guess what let's get into it.
Are the Gullah Wars. Our ancestors have never just accepted slavery and laid down. We have always fought back. Did they capture some of us? Yes. But when you're outmanned and outgunned, you're in a pretty tough position. You're in a tough position when you have this punk motherfucker pointing a gun at your 9-year-old daughter. His musket is in her face, and he's telling you, either get on this boat or I'll blow her head off. As a father, as a parent, you'll probably put those chains on and sit down in that boat. Now generations go by, and people are born into slavery. Once you are born into slavery, hell, you think you are a slave. In Frederick Douglass's biography, he spoke about how once slavery was over, many of those slaves wanted to go back into slavery.
That's that brainwashing. That's how powerful this stuff is. That's how deeply embedded a lot of this stuff became and still is. Let's go.
Because that's all they knew. When you can control a man's mind, when you can brainwash him, you don't have to worry about his actions. The Gullah Wars is the part of history that they tried to keep from us. They've tried to disguise this as the Indian Wars, and they've also used many other names as this. The Civil War did not free us.
Did you hear that? One more time for the people up top. What'd you say about the Civil War? What'd you say?
The Civil War did not free us. President Lincoln did not suddenly gain a conscience and thought to himself, you know what? This is wrong. We shouldn't treat these people like this. We freed us. We freed ourselves.
Freed us. We need to do that today.
And this was through the Gullah Wars. The Gullah Wars lasted from 1739 to 1858. These were military-minded runaway slaves. The myth that all slaves fled to the north, no. More than half of them went south. They went to Florida. They want to tell you that all the slaves went to the north because they're trying to throw you off from the rebellion. The rebellion that took place for over 100 years. The slaves would run away and head to Florida. This is where they built their own military. Whenever a runaway was captured, he would come back to the plantation and let everyone know what's going on. And if that runaway didn't get captured, he would tell the people in Florida where the plantation was. Give them information about the plantation, where they can hit them, where this is hidden, where that's hidden. Letting their
strategic planning, strategic moves. You gotta hit them. I'm not trying to incite a war. I'm talking about what they did. But with their actions today, we tired of this. We straight tired of this. You tyrants want to blame it on each other or different parties or Democrat or Republican or left or right. I'm sick of all of that. I'm sick of all of it. Every last piece of that bullshit. I ain't hearing it. Left, white, left, right, fucking Democrat, Republican. It's all the same. It's against the darkness of your skin. Not everybody, but the higher ups. That's I don't even know why they're higher ups. Why do we even listen to them? They don't do shit but steal from you. Anyway, I'm going off topic. I'm going somewhere.
Where this is hidden, where that's hidden. Letting their comrades know where to go and what to do. See, the Gullah Wars were vicious, but they had cohesiveness.
Cohesiveness. Let's think about that word. Cohesiveness. Stick together. If you were ally, you got a job to do. Because I know there's a lot of mixed races out here. You got some decisions to make. What side of the fence you on? What is justice to you? What is freedom to you? What is the definition of your right and your wrong? Either way it goes, the way it is these rulers, these governments, they're all outnumbered. You call all the cops you want, it's still outnumbered. And then you got to remember, those people have families. Those people have family members that's going to be involved if something was to jump off. Let's go.
They had the mindset of either we'll take our freedom or we'll die trying. Hundreds of angry slaves going to town, plantation to plantation, overwhelming everything in their paths.
God, I hate that fucking word, plantation.
And they was killing everything. People were getting their heads chopped off. People were getting set on fire. And they didn't care. This included women and children.
Damn,
because you have to understand this. Yes, that may be graphic.
Yeah.
But now, it was their turn to do the killing. It was their turn to do the raping. It was their turn to cut people open. It was their turn to cut heads off. They would ransack anything in their path and slaughter everybody. The first war began in 1739 called the Stono Rebellion. They went to a local gun shop and they took all the weapons. They killed the shop owner, and as they collected the weapons and they left, they all chanted, "Freedom, freedom, freedom, freedom." It was so loud, freedom, 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 freedom. It was so loud that it echoed throughout the town. Everybody heard it.
He had to turn the music off for that one. So here's the deal. You got all these QAnon or Antifa or whatever the hell that bullshit is, talking about they want to incite a race war. And then you got students up in Michigan talking about let's restart the Holocaust. Did y'all hear about that little, not little, but did you hear about that social media slave trade that was going on a matter of a little while ago? Michigan, Texas, two other states that I'm not thinking of. Michigan and Texas, definitely. Slave trade on social media here in this free land. If you missed that, go look it up on YouTube. There's some videos from like as 5 months ago. There's some from less than a week ago. Students, high school students, white high school students trading their black colleagues on a mock slave trade, a mock slave market. I would pay this much for this person, but I wouldn't pay this much for that person because their hair or whatever the hell the case may be. They're short or something like that. A mock slave trade. Talking about let's bring back the Holocaust. The only good part about that is they recognized it as a Holocaust, because the only Holocaust you hear about has Anne Frank written all over it. The Jews ain't the only ones. The Black Holocaust was much worse, still going on, and much more lives taken. Let's go.
As I've stated, the war lasted for over 100 years, but the most important one took place probably about a decade before the Civil War kicked off. These runaway warriors lit up the United States military. Yeah, you heard that right.
Lit up who? The military.
The United States military got their asses handed to them. A little more than 400 escaped slaves defeated nearly 12,000 of the United States' finest. They led them off into the swamps and other areas. And since they knew the location, they were aware of the surroundings, the U.S. had no chance. Now, back in 1812, Spain was at war with the U.S. over territory in Florida. Now, Spain, they got word of what was going on. So they started giving weapons to the escaped slaves. They started giving them weapons, and they started training them. And that army grew. The army grew fast. They were so aware of their surroundings out there in Florida. Every time there was a war, they lit their asses up. They had no chance. It was a one-sided battle. The U.S. was getting attacked from angles that they had no idea how to respond to. There was a very prominent town in Suwanee, Florida. In Suwanee, they didn't need white folks for anything. They didn't need any assistance.
Remarkable story. It's overlooked not just by filmmakers, it's not well known in popular culture, and in fact it's been overlooked by historians of slavery, if you can believe it. In the early 18th century, two groups in particular fled the colonial South into Spanish Florida, into the Everglades. One of these groups were Seminoles, who were migrating from the various colonies, just trying to avoid white encroachment, basically, trying to move.
Let me point something out here. This is what happened when black and brown teams together. Did you hear me? Black and brown, get it together. The system pits us against each other, distracting you with Asian hate. You walk around with wool blinders.
Someplace that white colonists weren't. And the other group was runaway slaves, people who were fleeing and trying to create a free life for themselves. Both were welcome in Florida, and in fact, the Spanish crown offered runaway slaves their freedom if they would defend the land for the crown, for the Spanish. So a mixed society emerged in the Everglades of intermarriage, family intermingling between these runaway slaves and the Seminoles. And in fact, the first legally sanctioned black free town in the North American continent was in the Spanish Florida Everglades. After the American Revolution, people living in the southern states didn't really like living that close to a large armed population of former slaves, particularly when they were in league with the local Native American
Made them feel
nation,
uncomfortable.
the large armed group of free Seminoles. And
threat.
they knew that their own slaves felt free to run away and be harbored by this group. They knew that they were welcomed. And so from George Washington's administration on, there was questions of what do we do about the problem of the Florida Everglades. In 1818, this was James Monroe's administration, General Andrew Jackson actually moved into Florida, invaded it, not authorized to do so. He was actually pursuing justice against those who'd attacked Fort Scott in Georgia, but he did it anyway. He went into Florida, and he took the opportunity to execute some of the people who opposed him, and also to clean out some of the areas of former slaves and Seminoles, because he felt that this would make it better for annexation. The United States then soon actually bought Florida from the Spanish.
That's when they decided to buy Florida. This is how Florida got. This is what they don't tell you about Florida. Y'all wilding out down in Florida right now, right? I don't know what's going on down there right now, but y'all wilding out. Just a side note. Sheesh. I had a different word, but I'm gonna go with that one.
When Jackson became president, he decided to make sure that the Black Seminole communities were moved out by force. So he pursued this in his policy, his larger policy of Indian removal. This led to the Second Seminole War, which was 1835 to 1842, and became the largest and costliest of the so-called Indian Wars. Because the two communities were tied together, that is, the former slaves and the Seminoles, when the Seminoles were attacked in the Seminole War, this led to an uprising of the former slaves. In April of 1836, Black Seminoles and their Indian allies moved together to create what was the largest slave rebellion in U.S. history. This wasn't just a matter of runaway slaves.
Nope.
More than 385 plantation slaves ran away from their masters and joined the Black Seminoles, essentially in laying waste to the Florida sugar mills, which were some of the most valuable areas, plantations in the whole continent.
They didn't need any assistance. They had their own farming, their own land, and they were very successful.
Does this sound familiar to the stories that you've been hearing today? Grow your own food, own your own land, Black Wall Street stories coming up left and right in multiple areas? I hope y'all putting the pieces together before you getting offended by this. I hope you're putting the pieces together before you consider it old news, because it's current news as well. You want to know what the buildup is? Listen to Sliding Biden. He's just a quiet version of what Trump was doing. I ain't never heard of no free vaccine. And he keep telling black folks to get it, but yet Congress and everybody who works for Congress and the White House is exempt from getting this vaccine, but everybody else got to get a pass? We got to have a piece of paper? No, I don't have it. No, I'm not getting it. No, I don't want it. The countries in Africa that refuse to let the vaccine come into their country because they didn't need it, because they didn't have the COVID problem, are now dead. You got freaking Colombians being blamed for, what was it, the Haitian president, matter of fact? Are y'all putting this together? Or is it clicking? Is it clicking? Is it coming together? Is this glue actually doing something? Let's go.
Soon to be president, Andrew Jackson, who was general at the time, sent the troops into Suwanee, and they got annihilated. So they went into battle. They got their ass tore off, and as they retreated, since they were forced to retreat because they couldn't handle it, General Andrew Jackson spotted a section in the community where the women and children were hiding. Since all the men were fighting in the war, they hid all the women and children. This punk, bitch, motherfucker spotted them and slaughtered each and every one of them. They couldn't handle it.
These are your great leaders. These are your heroes. You wonder why we want to tear them statues down? We don't even want the copper that shit was made out of. Toss that to your gators.
The men, so they slaughtered the women and children. And then they continued their retreat. But you see outrage today over these statues that we're trying to take down.
I just said that.
See, Andrew Jackson is known as a hero. Andrew Jackson is on the $20 bill. All through school's curriculum, we were taught how people like Andrew Jackson were heroes.
Talk about critical race theory. Let's talk about critical race theory in reverse, the way it really happened, the way it really supposed to be. This country want to change everything from narratives to make itself to be the victim and the glory, whatever the hell you want to call it, the heroes and blah, blah. Y'all, I almost said a couple things.
Fuck Andrew Jackson.
One more time for the people up top. Where is my mouse? Give me my cursor. Hold the phone. Can I get that one more again? So delicious.
See, Andrew Jackson is known as a hero. Andrew Jackson is on the $20 bill.
Give me my favorite part.
All through school's curriculum, we were taught how people like Andrew Jackson
Let me pull
heroes.
a move that racist ass Hulk Hogan would do.
Fuck Andrew Jackson.
Thank you.
And may he rest in piss.
Cold piss.
Now, the act of importing slaves was not stopped due to the kindness of their hearts. The United States stopped importing slaves because of the Gullah army. That army...
Wait, hold on. Let this sink in. They stopped. Why? Not because of laws. It wasn't because of laws. Like they'll tell you in these glorious truth history books, his story is fucking wrong. They stopped importing slaves because of what? Say that again.
The Gullah army. That
I hope they heard you.
Kept growing and growing. Now, as I stated before, the people who were born into slavery, they had a different mindset. Now, people that they were bringing over thought totally
Did
different.
not.
So you got these people that you're bringing over. They don't think that they're slaves. Now, some of the people that were born into slavery, they fought and they wanted to get out. But a lot of people they were bringing over, they were riders and they weren't having that shit. And this is what led to the Emancipation Proclamation.
The
White
truth.
towns had so much fear. Everyone was so afraid, and they put so much pressure on Lincoln. This is why they did that. They knew that they wasn't going to be able to contain this anymore. They saw how fast it was growing, and this widespread warfare was getting out of control.
Now, if you take take what he just said and you look at the pattern of what's going on today, and you take out the slave ships, but you keep the conflict, because it's still just as racist today as it was yesterday. And you look at this influx of Haitians coming in, the government is sitting there looking at this like this is repeating. History always repeats itself. And it's starting right now again. That's why they don't want that's why they don't want the Haitians coming in. This is the blockage they're trying to stop. A Haitian is welcome in my house. Anybody is welcome in my house until you prove otherwise. And you don't want that problem when you go otherwise. You don't want that heat.
General Thomas Jessup said that the Negroes are running the war. General Thomas Jessup convinced and insisted that they set these people free. It was time. See, they always want to throw different names around. You got to be careful with these names and read behind the history of this stuff.
Do your own research.
They want to call these the Seminole Wars or the Indian Wars. Now, on December 8th, 1837, General Jessup wrote a letter to Andrew Jackson telling him, "You may be assured this is a Negro and not an Indian war. And if it be not speedily put down, the South will feel the effects of it and their slave population before the end of next season." We have never just accepted slavery and laid down.
For those that got the history wrong, never accepted slavery and just laid down.
They had rebellions on ships, and we had no guns. They were fighting without guns.
We got guns now. Thank you to the gangs that they built. That homeland domestic terrorism. This is the only country that has that term embedded in it. Domestic terrorists. Because this country breeds terrorists. And I ain't talking about these rebellions. I'm talking about all the overseas conflicts, all the people that's doing all this crazy stuff. The reason that a white guy can sit in front of Washington, D.C. and only get arrested when he's sitting out there claiming that he got enough explosives in his, what was it, a van to take out, a block or so? But he's sitting in jail alive. You got children under 10 that were gunned down by police. Yeah. You wonder why this gets me so fired up and heated? Yeah. If you take offense to anything, hey. Whatever.
There was over 100 rebellions in the 1600s. There was over 100 rebellions in the 1700s. There was over 100 in the 1800s. The Gullah Wars lasted for more than 100 years. We've never just laid down and took that. We've always fought back.
Throw his ass overboard.
Do not disrespect the ancestors like that. I've seen dumbass quotes of people saying, "We are not our ancestors. We'll whoop y'all ass." Please don't disrespect the ancestors like that. They have never accepted that shit. Never.
That's a lie.
Some
that
of
was
you
told to you.
motherfuckers scared to even talk back to your boss. So cut the bullshit.
Ooh, I didn't cuss so many general managers out. Oh my God, what a feeling. And cussing your boss out? Oh. The last one I did, oh man, it was so liberating. I enjoyed every fucking word of that. Man.
Some of you motherfuckers never had guns pointed to you. Never had guns pointed at your kids and telling you either put these chains on or I'm gonna blow your daughter's head off. So cut the bullshit. I would highly recommend you go read The Invisible War.
Mm-hmm.
Another book,
$14.
go read Florida's Negro War, Black Seminoles, and the Second Seminole War. And the third one, go check out The Unconquered. These 3 books will tell you everything you need to know about the Gullah Wars. Everything.
Do I need to pause this so y'all can finish reading this? You getting it?
Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. And let me know what you think in the comment section.
History no chaser. Hit 'em up. So that's the video that I wanted to use to explain this mess that's going on at these borders with the Haitians being treated like ex-slaves. I saw on Instagram there's some picture comparisons by one of my childhood heroes, Mr. Chuck D from Public Enemy, hence the shirt. Shout out to everybody that was involved in that movement, because I learned a lot from them lyrics. Of black and white photos of white guys on horses with whips, whipping slaves. And a matter of days ago, white guys on horses with whips, whipping Haitians. This is going on at the border. This government fears another Gullah Wars, because the way that this place is running, you got sliding Biden, who used Kamala the friendly ghost to get into office, and the racial tension was already heated after the tangerine tyrant got kicked out of office with all his BS with the big lie. Then you got bitch McConnell and all his cronies. They're walking around in fear. They're fearing another Gullah Wars. I'm Aquarian OG. You should get to know me. And it be like that, because I'm unapologetically black. Deuces.